Okay, good morning. Let me quickly run through sort of the run of show so everyone knows what to expect here. The mayor is going to kick us off. April Calvin, who's the interim director of Metro's Homeless Impact Division, will be second, followed by Ryan Lesueur from Community Care Fellowship. After that, we're going to hear from Ms. Kim Perkins, who's going to share some of her lived experience around this topic. And then finally from Councilmember Hauser and then Councilmember Rosenberg. So those are our 6 speakers, and I will turn it over to Mayor Cooper.
Well, thank you. Good morning. Thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Council Lady Hauser and Councilman Rosenberg for being here, Deputy Mayor Haywood, as always, and all of you, because we're here this morning at Bellevue United Methodist Church to discuss a bold and ambitious plan to get Nashville's most vulnerable population off the streets and into stable, safe environments. And thank you, Pastor Brian Marcoulier, for having us here today. And I want to recognize the great partner that Bellevue United Methodist Church has been, and particularly with their service with food banks throughout the time of COVID. It's just been a great contribution to our city, and thank you, United Methodist Church. Now, I'm grateful to be joined by some of our city's leaders on this topic. April Calvin, who you'll be hearing from in a moment, our interim head of the Metro's Homeless Impact Division. Ryan Lesueur, the Executive Director of Community Care Fellowship, and then Councilmember Hauser and Councilmember Rosenberg, and Kim Perkins, who has experienced the struggle of being unhoused firsthand, will share some of her experience. And I know Council members Tom Druffel and Mary Carolyn Roberts are both eager to be here today, but had conflicts, prior commitments in their schedule. Last April, I proposed investing in an unprecedented $50 million of funds from the American Rescue Plan to address the urgent need for homelessness in Nashville. And my office, working together with April's team at the Homeless Impact Division, community leaders, and a group of national experts, have designed a plan of action to maximize the impact of this investment. Now, the core of the plan is creating a housing-first model in Nashville. A housing-first model in Nashville. What does that mean? Now, that's a variety of low-barrier housing options combined with key resources that address mental health challenges, addiction, special health needs, and more. It cannot be housing only. So it is a housing-first model, but it is not just housing only. And there are no guarantees on this topic. But this is a proven national model that has been successful in cities across the country. And it's important to bring that model to Nashville. Now, on July 13th, Metro's ARP Financial Oversight Committee, the commission charged with reviewing and approving how the city will spend these federal dollars, approved this plan. And next, it requires Metro Council's sign-off. And I am asking the council to move on this approval at their next meeting. Too many of our neighbors are living in horrific and tragic conditions. I've been to many homeless encampments, and I've seen the suffering and the human toll firsthand. People are getting very sick living in the street. Some are dying. And we know that is unacceptable. To me as mayor and to Nashville as a city. We have a moral imperative to do better and to have a plan that meets the magnitude of the problem. And that's what this plan does. To create housing first, it means a lot of upfront capital costs. And that's why doing this now, when we have access to federal recovery dollars, is essential. And there are 4 key components, and the council will be voting on all 4 of them on October the 4th. 1 is building more deeply affordable units. 2 is partnering with landlords to create more affordable units. Then scaling up our temporary solutions for people while permanent units become available. And then investing in services like mental health and addiction support to keep people off the streets. Now, I'd like to talk about each one in a little more detail. The first is building more units. And we're going to do this in a few ways. One is through low-cost loans that will allow us to build hundreds of deeply affordable, permanent supportive housing units. These units will be filled through a system called coordinated entry, which is our established way of connecting unhoused residents to available housing. Now, these units will take time to get online, so in the meantime, we will create units from construction projects happening right now. We will subsidize units in development slated to go online in as little as 3 months. Units that were going to be rented as market rate will now be deeply affordable and filled through our coordinated entry efforts. $25 million is to go towards funding these approaches. But we have needs right now. And right now, the second part of the plan is to partner directly with landlords, developers, and building owners, along with the nonprofit community, to incentivize them to relax their criteria and get more people off the streets and into housing. In this past year, we've seen a 74% increase among landlords who are participating and a 47% increase in the units available. And our plan will direct $7 million to expand on this program's success and to get people into units right now. Thirdly, our goal is to find everyone who needs safe, permanent housing. But it's essential that we have temporary solutions for folks in the housing pipeline so that no one has to sleep outside while we find them units. Now, organizations like the Community Care Fellowship and facilities like the one we are at today play a critical role in giving our unhoused neighbors somewhere to go immediately. And our plan invests $9 million towards expanding this work. The work that Ryan and his team and many other organizations in Nashville are doing right now to provide temporary gap housing. Now, Ryan can speak more to this, but these funds, once approved by council, will allow community care and many other groups to add capacity and to serve more residents faster. And then finally, our plan allocates $9 million to assure our hardest to house individuals and families receive the support they need to retain their housing. And we will hire more case managers and outreach personnel and invest in more mental health, addiction, and healthcare resources to assist these individuals. And let me say it again, housing first cannot be housing only. You have to also invest in counseling. Now, every unhoused resident finds himself or herself in that circumstance for different reasons. And these new resources will significantly bolster our ability to address the root cause of why folks on the streets are there and help them get back on their feet and into housing. And it's easy to forget, standing here in this hot sun today, it will soon be cold outside, and conditions for residents living on the streets will worsen. And Metro's cold weather protocols generally begin in November, just 6 short weeks away. So action now is very important. Now, April's team at HID, whose budget I increased by 92% over the last 2 budget cycles, continues to work day and night to make progress on this crisis that we have become too used to living with. We have to change that, and we have to do more. And I appreciate the council's desire to be deliberate. That is their job. And they have submitted nearly 60 questions to my office about this plan, and we'll be posting the responses online this week. There will also be a working session on September the 29th where council can explore our plan in more detail. But I urge council members to approve our plan when they meet on October the 4th. We cannot afford to wait any longer. More importantly, our fellow citizens, those who are experiencing homelessness, cannot afford to wait another day. And so with that, let me thank and ask April to come and make a few remarks to you. It's an exciting moment in Nashville to have a plan that is of the magnitude of the size of the problem in Nashville. It is not a problem that it's been a problem that's been coming to us for many years, we all recognize, but this is a bold, large plan that can make true progress here in Nashville with our great partners. It is not just the city. Let me just spend a moment. This is amazing nonprofits that are doing so much of the work, and we need to support them too. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just want to check, make sure you can hear me. I would like to thank Mayor Cooper for hosting this event today and for his vision, leadership, and commitment to the Metro Homeless Impact Division and to reducing homelessness here in Nashville. I'm April Calvin, the interim director of the Metro Homeless Impact Division, the Metro Department that is deeply dedicated to supporting our unhoused Nashville neighbors and connecting them to the services that they need. We address homelessness by using a collaborative approach between Metro government and our valuable community partners and nonprofits. We lead in addressing the coordinated efforts of homelessness. A lot of what we do and a lot of what the community expects is to see us to realize the heavy work that we do here in choreographing the work that we do with our community partners. This funding is more than a dollar allocation. It's more than words on a paper. It's more than a proposal to be approved. The historic funding is literally what could take hundreds of people from hopelessness to homes, from streets to stability, from impending danger to peace and safety. These large funds will forge partnership with our nonprofits and community partners, like Ryan Lasore, that you're going to hear from here in a few minutes, who's doing the hard work, some of them finding themselves short-staffed because the work can be daunting. Competitive grants like the ones the mayor is proposing can assist with innovative approaches to alleviate that pressure. The Housing First initiative will help boost our capacity along with the capacity of the entire community that we serve. I've worked in this industry for 26 years, and I've seen the pain and the depression, and I can tell you, housing with adequate wraparound resources reduce homelessness. This historic plan promises to do just that. Each funding designation is dependent on the other. Increasing the housing pipeline, building robust support services, and following national best practices for landlord cultivation, recruitment, and retention will help provide a three-pronged approach to deeply affordable housing efforts in Nashville. The toxic stress that comes along with managing life without a home is devastating to the health of our unhoused Nashville neighbors. The mayor's bold Housing First approach is in alignment with HUD's focus and the unsheltered population. Our collective continuum of care strategy is also in alignment with these funds. I would like to thank the entire Homeless Impact Division for helping to support this work. I would be remiss if I did not thank the entire continuum of care and all of our local nonprofits that help to do this work daily, and our outreach team, MHED's outreach team that's here to support us as well today. Housing absolutely saves lives. I would like to introduce you all to Ryan Lesueur.
Thank you so much, April. My name is Ryan Lesueur, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Care Fellowship. Community Care Fellowship has been serving our neighbors experiencing homelessness in the Nashville community for over 40 years. The way that we do this is a systematic, hyperlocal approach. We start with providing for basic stabilizing services. We do that through resource hubs set up close to encampments throughout the city. We currently have 3 locations, one in Madison, one in East Nashville, and one in West Nashville in partnership. This is where we start building relationship with our guests experiencing homelessness. This is where we start building trust with those individuals experiencing homelessness. And we provide showers, laundry, food, mailing services so that we can help them to start to be able to stabilize. And once that process has started and we've provided those services, we then have pathways out of homelessness that we do in partnership and through our own programming. Those include working with social enterprises that provide low barrier employment. Those include master lease programs with several landlords throughout the city. And those also include the mobile housing navigation centers like we are at today. Those mobile housing navigation centers are set up in church spaces close to encampments and can provide immediate entrance for guests coming out of those encampments through coordinated entry process of those that are the most vulnerable. And because of our numbers inside the churches, we can actually provide intensive case management and housing navigation, be sure that they have all of their basic needs met, all of their documents. We bring in resources around addiction recovery as well as mental health counseling. And then we are able to connect them with permanent housing through our landlord partnerships. With the passing of this resolution, we will be able to expand to 5 locations in 2023 and 7 locations in 2024. This would have a projection of serving 500 to 600 individuals through these sites using a 120-day turnaround to permanent supportive housing. We are very thankful to April and her team and all the effort they've put around making this happen and serving the population experiencing homelessness throughout our Nashville community. And we're very thankful to the mayor's office for his support. I would like to introduce Kim Perkins, who has been one of our guests and one of my friends for a long time and has actually been served by Community Care Fellowship's different programs. Kim?
Thank you so much. My name is Kimberly, and I'm 47 years old. I started using around the age of 18. I was raised by both my parents in Tucson, Arizona, who were both addicts, and I was an only child. I moved to Homewood, Tennessee in '97, where my mom and shortly after my dad passed away in 2006 from kidney failure. He was a 2-tour Vietnam vet. I have 3 children who I lost them during the course of my addiction. In 2014, I decided to try and get clean for the first time. I stayed clean for about 3 years. I went back to Homewood to try and get my family back together, but shortly after I relapsed. I slept on couch to couch in Homewood and not really had experienced true homelessness. But I knew I had to make a change, and I decided to move back to Nashville to try and go back to rehab. I went back to Men and Heart shortly after I left treatment and wound up on the streets of Nashville with nothing. That was my first real experience of being homeless. I lived under Jefferson Bridge and for a while Hermitage Camp. I've seen a lot of horrible things out there, and my addiction grew worse and worse. I didn't know anything about being homeless. I went from being a spoiled only child to being homeless, strung out addict under the bridge. Then a good friend of mine told me about Ken and Carol's. And it was somewhere that I could go and eat every day, do what laundry I had, get a shower every day, and get my mail. It was truly a blessing. That's where I met Tyler and Ryan, Mr. Dave, and later on Regina. They were all so kind to me and gave me so much hope. There were days where I barely had much will to live until I came through those doors. I knew that if I didn't change my life, I was going to die. So I decided to go to Mirror Lake Recovery. And I went and got clean, came out, but I didn't have anywhere to go. I talked to one of my old case managers at Salvation Army who had sent me to City Road. And that's where I met Felicia and Rochelle. They are wonderful women, and they have helped me tremendously. They offered me a job as part-time house manager, and which eventually has turned into a full-time job for me. Shortly after I was offered the position, I got to move to High Road Place, and it's been a great experience living there, having a sense of safety and being off the streets. I have 9 months clean, and I am truly blessed. Just here recently, I was offered a position at Park Center, so at least that I can try to give back and help others as well. That's people have gave me so much hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out today to discuss this very important issue. When I first moved to Nashville, one of the things that attracted me is Nashville was a solution city. What I found is if there was a problem, people didn't stand around, moan and groan and complain about the problem. They said, what can we do? Let's fix this. We can fix this, folks. It's time to move forward towards solutions, not Band-Aids. Not smiles and handshakes. It's time to be public servants, not politicians. 3 years ago, when the magnitude of the homeless issue was brought to my attention, I realized that homelessness impacts us all, whether you're experiencing homelessness, someone you love, whether it's in your neighborhood, whether it's where you shop. We are all impacted. This is a problem all of us need to focus on, not just the wonderful nonprofits and the agencies you see here today. When I first brought this to the administration's attention, if you recall, we sort of had a tsunami of emergencies here. And those all took every single resource we had. We were just putting out fires, and the fires were multiplying. I want to acknowledge the folks from the neighborhoods that are here today. Thank you. You help keep the light shining on this. I want to acknowledge the nonprofits that do the hard work every single day. Thank you, and thank you for keeping the thorn in our side that said we need to do more. We're drowning here. And I especially want to thank Mayor Cooper. This is the first administration that has decided enough is enough. We need to stop just moving this down the road. We need real solutions. We need a plan. And that's what we're presenting to you today, the plan. We can stop the bleed. We can move forward with real action. This plan lays the groundwork for ongoing programs so we don't get to this place in the future. The 4 resolutions that the Mayor Cooper mentioned address every single angle. First, we got to get people off the streets. Our unhoused need a safe place to be. You can't think about healing until you're at least in a safe place. Our resolution addresses the temporary gap housing so we can get people off the street so they can start focusing on what they need to do next. Another resolution addresses the social services so we can figure out why are these folks homeless in the first place. It's typically multiple situations, but the social services are there, whether it be mental, physical disability, addiction, whatever. We need to find out what these folks need so they don't end up back on the streets again. It's just no good for us to put them into housing and 6 months later they're back on the street. We want them to stay on a good trajectory for the rest of their life. And then, as Mayor mentioned, we need to work with our landlords so they can have the low barrier opportunities for our tenants and feel safe with that because they know their city is supporting them with the funding sources that are in that resolution. And lastly, we have got to create more housing. Everyone knows if you started the project 2 years ago, it's going to cost you a whole lot more to finish it today than it was 2 years ago, whether we're talking about buying a refrigerator or adding on a room to your house. So we have projects that have been approved. They're ready to dig dirt. They have their bank financing, but that's not going to be enough. They need this other gap financing that's part of this plan. So I urge the council members to look at these solutions and say it's time to move forward. I don't care whose name's on the top of the page or who's going to get the glory. What we need to do is take care of this issue. Now's the time to act. Now's the time to put action behind the plan and end chronic homelessness in Nashville. Now's the time for all of us to pull together. The council members, the staff, the nonprofits, our neighborhoods. We need to pass these resolutions and get to work. Time for talk is done. We can do this. We must do this. We are Nashville. We're the Solution City.
Thank you all for being here this morning. Mayor, welcome. And I appreciate y'all being here at Bellevue United Methodist Church, also home to the Bellevue Food Bank, to acknowledge what the folks here are doing. It's critically important, and it highlights the incredible work that's being done to help our homeless neighbors. It's work being done by folks like the Community Care Fellowship in Bellevue UMC, Colby's Army, Open Table, Shower the People, and so many others. It's work being done at a time when some have targeted homeless people with hate and vitriol and grabbed headlines, but this work being done here and in our encampments across the city, this is the work that's worthy of our attention and our gratitude. Housing solves homelessness. Not on its own, but as a necessary condition, and we need a lot more housing in Nashville. I appreciate all that Mayor Cooper and his team are doing to focus on real solutions. I'm thankful that Metro recognizes that poorly conceived ideas, like building walls around encampments, solves nothing, but instead disperses its residents into nearby neighborhoods, making it impossible to provide essential services, including mental health and addiction services. Instead, solutions are achieved by putting our resources and our energy into working with our nonprofit partners to address one of our greatest societal failures. It's work that does not bear fruit overnight, but is also essential for us to continue it and accelerate it. Thank you to the Community Care Fellowship and the folks here at Bellevue UMC, including Brian. Thank you, Mayor Cooper and colleagues, and thank you to everyone working to make a difference.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.